Hi everyone, this is Xander Breach, and this is my weight loss journey part 11. Before I go into the story, I'm just going to let y'all know now, I'm referring the warning video, so please take a look at the warning video before you watch this video. If you have not looked at the warning video, turn off the video right now and look at it, please. I'm not joking. If you have, sit back, relax, and enjoy the story. Now, before I go into talking about what happened after I made my decision to reject that girl, I want to rewind a little bit back to the summer of '06, right after my grandmother's memorial service. 2 weeks later, after my grandmother's memorial service, my grandfather came to stay with us. He was just released from the hospital and he had no idea Grandma passed away. So, before he came to stay with us, I had to say goodbye to the cable box in the in-law suite because that cable box was going in the room where Grandpa and my step-grandfather were staying in. I didn't really care. They needed the entertainment. I had my own entertainment. I had my stereo system and I had movies. So I just figured let them have it. I don't even watch much TV in there anyways. I have much bigger and better things to do. So they got that all set up and I was happy for them. And the day he came, I don't exactly remember what I got in trouble for, but I remember my adopted father, excuse for that, getting up in my face and not letting me hear the end of it. Typical adoptive dad. After grandmother passed away, Grandpa comes to live with us. He has to, once again, put the yellow coin in the yellow machine and let me have it. Typical father. And as usual, he grounded me because evidently I didn't know how to be an adult at that time. And I don't blame him in a way because I was still acting like a kid. So, let it be known, there's going to be a lot more groundations than what you're hearing now. So, he told me to my face, why don't you go and comfort your grandfather? He just got word about your grandmother's passing. I'm like, okay. No TV, no nothing. I just sat and talked to Grandpa. Grandpa was very sad and he just started grieving of grandmother's passing. Seriously, grieving, tears, soaking his face. So I just sat there and I talked to him, chatted with him and, I just comforted him. During the time Grandpa was staying with us, a lot happened. He was going in from happy mode to depressing mode. Couldn't really blame him. He was in his grieving process, but his grieving went way, way beyond. I remember he needed help with something or I needed to watch over him. He drew a picture I would never forget. I didn't tell my adoptive father about it because I knew for a fact that my adoptive father would not look at it the way I want him to. My grandfather drew a picture of someone in a wheelchair, an elderly gentleman like himself, with a collar around his neck and a leash on the collar, being yanked and pulled like he's being treated like a dog. I'm like, Grandpa, you are not being treated as a dog. You know, you're not being treated like this. Why do you think this? So I'm starting to think this man is more depressed than I thought. One day he had watermelon. He decided to choke on watermelon seeds. And I'm like thinking to myself, wow, he really wants to die. Grandmother kicks the bucket and this man wants to die. So my adoptive dad didn't allow it, even though he wasn't doing too good, my grandfather. We fed him liquids. He was an all liquid diet. And I remember my step-grandfather didn't want to eat anything. And my stepmom jumped his case. It seemed like during this time, everybody was on someone's case. My adoptive dad was on mine. My stepmom was on my step-grandfather's case. Everybody was on everybody's case. There was no peace and quiet. Almost makes you want to explode, doesn't it? So, what happened next was Grandpa ended up going to the hospital. And my stepmom's friend's son came to stay with us for a while and visit. This guy was 1 year older than I was. So you can imagine how I felt later down the line when he became more like a babysitter than a friend. And what happened is I remember my stepmom and my adoptive dad now making funeral arrangements for my adoptive grandfather. They don't know when this man's gonna die. But for some gut feeling, my adoptive dad had a feeling that Grandpa was going to pass. So Grandpa was in the hospital for 1 week. I don't know how long he was. But it was told that when they had to go to the hospital after Grandpa passed, it was told that he looked like he was still alive. They said that his eyes were looking up. So I heard that and I'm thinking, wow, did God come and tell my grandfather that it's time to go? Did Grandma and God come to Grandpa and tell him that it was time to go? If that man was looking up, you know his spirit left his body at that same time. So something happened when he was looking up. And he passed like that. He went to heaven with his eyes looking up. So they had the funeral in Texas, and he had to go to Texas to get buried. So my adoptive dad and stepmom took a trip up there and made sure everything went smoothly. And during the week, they were in Texas. My stepmom's friend's son, excuse me for that error, ended up watching me and my nieces and nephews. I tell you, it was a stupid idea to get someone 1 year older than I was playing babysitter. And then they had the nerve to let him ground me? It's stupid. It's a stupid idea. Just a dumb idea. I don't do my work like I'm supposed to. He comes in one day and says, you know what, you're grounded. I'm like, you're 1 year older than I am. This is ridiculous. So you can see how annoyed I was. Adoptive dad and stepmom come back, and that was the end of their little Texas trip. And I'll tell you, that friend of my stepmom's son I should say, had a lot to say. And I'll tell you what, it was nice and it was good, it was nice and not so nice. But, you know, getting in trouble with these people every day It's just one thing after another. Now we go into after I made the decision to reject that girl. We got in the whole summer thing down packed. So let's fast forward a little bit. Right where I last left off. Excuse me for my errors. So what happened is all I can say is that after I made that decision, I was hoping my adoptive dad and stepmom would be happy that at least I had the nerve to reject the girl. Do the right thing. Stepmom was happy, said, "Oh, you got tested, you did a good job." I'm like, thank God. I'm being recognized for doing something right. It's about time. So, during that time, after the rejection, it was a couple weeks later, my stepmom gets a phone call. Oh boy. Some guy is believing his daughter that I ended up taking money from her, and that was a bull-faced lie. I did no such thing. I'm not even stealing any money from her. Now, yeah, I entertained a whole bunch of kids in the school. I'll give it that. Let me tell you one thing. When I got popular in that last high school I was in, I do recall the one thing I did do was rap. I rapped a lot. I rapped one time, got into like a rap battle, I made a guy choke on his words. In other words, I made the man forget his words. Got recognition for that. Now that we're on the high school level. But I do recall when my stepmom got that phone call, that's what I was thinking about. All I did for those kids was entertain them. And this girl happened to like me, so she lies to her daddy that I did all this and that. And that's not how you show a guy that you like them. That's ridiculous. So, after the situation was resolved, my stepmom gave me a decision. I either go with her and my adoptive dad to Texas, or I go into a group home here in Florida. Not wanting to go into a group home just yet, I ended up deciding to go to Texas. Or the decision was already made. I was going to Texas anyways. They wanted to go back to Texas to live there, and lo and behold, I gotta tell you, going to Texas was going to be quite a journey. What was supposed to be a journey into getting out of state and doing a little traveling was going to become a disaster. And I mean disaster as in it's going to start off that way, but then again, new experiences will come. And those new experiences will have consequences. So, to end this whole high school experience, I got pulled out my junior year. And when my stepmom pulled me out, I knew right then and there I was going to have to go to GED school when I started living in Texas a whole lot more. And getting pulled out that year was not fun. And considering he knew I was going to Texas with him and my stepmom, my adopted dad wasn't too proud about that. So he decides he's just going to ground me till we leave for Texas. It was almost maybe 3 or 4 days before my 20th birthday. And being grounded for those couple of days till we left, I didn't really care. I knew the groundation wasn't that long, so I said, fine, I'll deal with it. So I dealt with it, and pretty soon I had to pack up my bags and get ready, leaving some stuff behind. But I'll tell you one thing, just when I thought what would start out as fun was going to turn into a journey there, heading there,